from AP News. U.S. set for largest mass visa revocation in history, targeting up to 200,000 foreigners, officials say. The Trump admin is preparing to revoke the business and tourism visas up to 200,000 foreigners who have applied for or are currently seeking asylum status in the U.S. If it happens, the move would be the largest single mass revocation of visas in U.S. history and would likely face legal challenge. Unless challenged or revised, the State Department is expected to announce in the coming weeks the revocation of so-called B1 and B2 visas issued between 2016 and 2026, whose holders have sought asylum or are now seeking asylum, according to State Department documents obtained by the AP and two U.S. officials. The action will be taken in coordination with the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm down. Listen, they applied for business visas, and now are claiming they need asylum. That is clearly fraud.
Would so I don't know if you saw what just happened out of Sweden, where they found that something like 70% of the people that had applied for refugee status in Sweden had actually gone back and visited the country that they had sought refugee status from. I'm willing to bet the people that actually came over on business visas, if you actually check their travel records, they've gone back home and visited the country that they're now going to seek asylum from.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the asylum program and the H-1B programs are two of the most abused, probably second only to Social Security, because basically anybody that can come up with sore knees, attempts to get on Social Security. So I think that anything the government can do to deport people that are here in fraudulent cases, that's a good thing. I mean, look, I'm a deport everybody guy though.
I'm gonna let y'all in a secret. I own real estate. Okay, nobody knew this, but I actually own real estate, and the prices are not good right now. Buyers are pulling off the market, and so the Democrat strategy with the housing market crisis. I mean, even Trump doesn't even want. He's a real estate guy. He doesn't want prices going down, but you can't do anything about it because we don't have enough people. We don't have enough young people. And so the Democrats tried flooding the country with non-citizens to create fake demand and crunch the supply. Now, what I've heard is people said, the reason housing is expensive is because we have a shortage. This is only technically correct. There's a shortage because the houses are too expensive for the average person, but they exist. So with sending these people out, here's what's going to happen. Property values are going to start going way, way, way down. There's no young people buying property, and you're getting rid of these foreigners who are demand. They're older. We have to do it. If, I'm even thinking about Nashville because there was big news out of Nashville that the prices are collapsing, particularly, even though it's a boom town. Yeah. Right? There's Oracle's moving, Starbucks is moving. You'd think the prices would go up, but they're not. No. They're going down, and this is good news because it means that 4-bedroom house with a white picket fence and a yard and a half acre for a Gen Z guy and gal to move into and have a family is going to be within their grasp once we start eliminating the artificial demand pumped in here by Democrats so that boomers can have expensive houses.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, J.D. Vance was on the stump today in Maine, and he literally said this. He said Trump's deportations are lowering rent prices. And then, of course, all these people start combing through all the different graphs or whatever. But it's like, dude, we're positing a very simple mechanism here, which is let's do a graph. Let's just think of a graph. Illegal immigrants goes down. That means houses that illegal immigrants previously lived in goes up, which means housing supply is freed up. Housing stock is freed up. And it kind of goes back to the initial point that many have made, and it's a very salient point, which is that mass deportations literally fix everything. We're talking about housing. Again, these are houses that are being occupied by people that shouldn't be in the country. Yep. And oftentimes, these are houses, some people are like, well, these houses are in undesirable neighborhoods. Part of the reason they're so undesirable are because of the illegal immigrants, right? So it's very obvious going on here.
It turns out that Haitians eating your cats and dogs actually devalues the property.
Yeah, not good for property. Yeah, not good for property values, like gnawing on a cat's leg and throwing them on the grill and whatnot. It's not a good look. The kids get a little nervous over that. So again, this is absolutely correct decision here on revoking these visas because, the visa overstays is really where we're getting burned. When people think about illegal immigration, they're thinking, oh, it's people, just marching across the southern border like the migrant caravans we saw under Biden. Yeah. Well, the overwhelming majority of illegal immigrants came in the country legally. They just overstayed their visa. Again, the tourist visa is very common. And then once they try to turn that visa into an asylum claim or a different visa, they get it jammed up in the courts. These immigration lawyers, unfortunately, are pretty good at their jobs, and it causes a lot of problems. So Trump is going right to the source here of these visa overstays and just saying, no, we're going in and investigating why you're here in the first place. Because this is a point that I've made on the show previously, is that for one reason or another, like the visa requirements are imposed with like max scrutiny on Europeans, on Australians, on Canadians. But then when it comes to the third world, it's like they're in an entirely different playing field. Like they get to just skimp on whatever restrictions needed, and they somehow end up in the country. So again, I don't think that, people are like, oh, this, and then the H-1B that Trump's cracking down on, this is going to cost us so many, bright minds and whatnot. I'm like, those people will find a way in the country. If they're super intelligent and that's the cream that we need to skim, so to speak, trust me, we're not going to have a problem getting them in the country. What we're doing here is not just trimming the fat, but lopping off the fat, because quite frankly, there's a lot of fat in this country and it's killing us. So it kind of goes back to that initial point. Mass deportations literally fix everything.
Well, as soon as when we had the Hart-Celler Act, there's this, the myth is, oh, we're a nation of immigrants. Okay. Yes and no. First of all, we were a nation initially of settlers.
Conquerors.
Yeah.
I got no problem with it.
Settlers, conquerors, sure. But it was primarily English Protestants, right? And then if you look at immigration that took place for about the first 100 years of our country's history, it was predominantly from Europe. So it was from countries that actually had some sort of shared traditions, history, et cetera. And then in 1920, even that immigration was too much for Americans. They felt like there had been an influx, and it was like, look, we need to slow this down so we can actually facilitate assimilation. We don't want we don't want ghettos. We want people to come here to become Americans.
Yep.
And that all of a sudden became racist in the 60s with the Civil Rights Act. And then you have Hart-Celler. Hart-Celler is the first time you have ever experienced mass importation from the third world into the United States.
Yep.
And it was very much intentional, because it didn't just do mass third world immigration. It didn't just open it up and end the preferential treatment for cultures that are similar to our own. It actually allowed for chain migration.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, you don't just get to immigrate to the country because we think that A, you will be a good fit, and B, you actually have the means to contribute. Now, oh, you came over here and you have legal status. You're not even a citizen. You have legal status. Yeah. Okay, great. Your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, your kids, everyone, they now get preferential treatment when coming over.
And the concept of saying someone is a good fit for the United States, now that's just racist.
Yeah.
So you can't even you're no longer allowed to say, look, there are some cultures that are similar to ours, and those are the cultures that we should open our borders to first. It's a situation where now if you say, oh, well, they're very different, they come from a very different culture and they have a very different background. Oh, well, now you're a racist because,
literally.
You're a racist. And that means that
I don't care.
Well, no, I mean, yes, 100%.
And what's crazy is these same people that are like literally advocating for all of that and so much more, they want to go way beyond the Hart-Celler Act.
Yeah.
Like, they want to have like mandatory diversification if an area is too white. They literally like appeal to the founding fathers all the time. Like, I don't know if you remember this clip a few months ago from John Ossoff. I think it was like last month. And he was like, the founders would be delighted to see our pluralistic democracy. And I'm like, dude, the founding fathers would take a look at our current situation with everything Nick Shirley's exposed, et cetera. And they'd look all that and they'd go, oh my gosh, you guys made a Catholic president?
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't even be able to comprehend what's going on. They'd be like, what do you mean an Irish person is allowed in the country? What are you talking about?
The first war that the U.S. fought that wasn't against the British was the Barbary War. Against the pirates.
And that was after Thomas Jefferson famously bought a Quran, because he's supposedly this like really cosmopolitan kind of guy. And he flipped through it and he's like, we got to wow. This is crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Marines, what was the Marines? I got some new lines for your song.
Yeah.
Well, the line was that when he went to the Barbary states and said, why are you doing this? We have not aggressed upon you. They said, you're infidels. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And he was like, then I am going to raise a navy and I am going to destroy you. And he did.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And that's kind of what Trump's been doing.
Bro, can you
he
just
goes and like, why are you invading Venezuela? He's like, they're infidels.
Look, I just want to just sort of talk on this flex of Jefferson. He's like, I'm going to go back to America. We're going to build a bunch of boats with cannons, and we're going to come and blow you up because I can.
Yeah.
That's a flex. That's crazy.
He's like, we got this new idea for soldiers. They're kind of like army men, but they're also like ducks. Like, great idea, Tom.
They're also like ducks.
Yeah. Brilliant.
When I see
Never
stuff
heard
like
the Marines
this,
described like that in my life.
so I was talking to my buddies from where we grew up, and I was mentioning this last week. There's a video, like there was like a news report from my neighborhood, and there's like a shooting or something that happened, and this video from the news, it's just a normal news video showing the neighborhood. There's cop cars everywhere, and the people who live in the houses are standing outside of their houses looking around, and they're like, Indian and Pakistani and Chinese. And, you know, I got no beef. You know what I mean? You know, you live your life. It's just pretty crazy when I say to my friends, like, you realize that that neighborhood that used to be a bunch of old people, old white people, and Polish immigrants, it's now like it's Latino, Pakistani, and Asian. Not really Polish anymore. The Polish people all left. And it's pretty crazy to think how rapidly it changed. But the issue that I bring up in this is, one, how the culture is going to rapidly change, and it is, because the restaurants we liked are gone. They're going out of business. The type of food is changing. But the old people who lived there died, and their kids did not take those houses, or they did not have kids. I think really what probably happened is, like the kids in my neighborhood, they moved. I moved. And so who's going to inherit that and buy those properties? So I'll just say this. I mean, understand what it means when, with no foreigners, those houses would be largely sitting empty. I don't necessarily think that's completely true, though. The house that I grew up in, I think my parents bought it for something like $60,000 or $70,000 back in the day. This is like 89 or something. Probably less than that. I don't know. I don't know what the prices were like. And today it's like $400,000. If there were no migrants to take these homes, well, they'd be selling for $100K, $130K maybe. And some young person might be like, hey, I'll actually move to the south side of Chicago.
Without that initial migration wave that you talked about, the Hart Cellar, you wouldn't have seen the massive like suburban sprawl that we have now. So we're kind of in this weird situation where now we'd be like reducing the amount of people there'd be less dollars chasing housing stock, right? But like if we nip this in the bud early on, we would have never needed these massive sprawling suburbs because people would have been comfortable raising a family in the inner city. Or the fact that when I say inner city, that's like code word for bad. That wasn't a thing until 40 years ago. Like as an American, you need to understand what was taken from you. It's quite literally, we had some of the most beautiful cities on planet Earth. And in our like grandparents' lifetimes, they got completely eviscerated. Where a place like Chicago, you know, you look and it's like, I was making this point on Twitter, you know, the highway belts basically tell you like every crime wave or immigration wave that we saw, where it's like they built another highway wave or a highway loop, and then another migrant wave came in, so then they had to fall back to the next county over and then built another highway loop.
To be fair, New York was kind of shot in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, you had some bad cities, but and so like, you know, New York, but you know, prior to the 1960s, again, living in inner city Chicago, you could raise a family there, no problem.
Detroit was the second wealthiest city in America.
Yeah.
But then you also look at the urban renewal plans that the Democrats were coming up with back then, and the way they intersected cities with the interstate, and they created a lot of problems with their own urban planning and their federal infusion of cash in some of these areas. But yeah, you just see. We also have to look. Inflationary monetary policy has also caused the price of housing along every other freaking asset to go up significantly. So I don't think it's all an immigration issue, but I do think the immigration issue is one of the most significant things that we can actually affect immediately.
Yep.
Well, yeah, immigration just takes an existing problem, like for example, California with Prop, was it 8 in the 70s or Prop 13, which basically like froze property taxes. And then people are like, oh, I never had to sell my house again, which is up for debate or whatever. Insofar as that did create a pinch in the housing market, immigration basically just turbocharges whatever pre-existing market condition is leading to a housing pinch. Immigration just takes that and sticks their thumb in the wound.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said earlier, like, you know, getting rid of the people that are here illegally solves an incredible amount of problems. It will free up people at the ERs. It will lower the cost of housing. It will provide jobs for people that are supposed to be here, for Americans. Just the amount of people that the Biden administration let in, not even going back prior to that, right? When Donald Trump came down the elevator in 2015 and announced, it was like, I didn't really have the concept that immigration, we had a big problem with illegal immigration. Like it didn't register with me. And then here we are now 10, 11 years later, and it's like, oh, well, now it's clear because of the Biden administration. It was bad before the Biden administration.
Well, people also don't understand that Biden did a lot of tricks within executive orders, within refugee laws and things like that, where he turned what had historically always been illegal immigration into legal immigration. Yeah. And that's, I mean, like Chip Roy and other people have actually got bills that are trying to change this and codify it so it's not just an executive order battle. But that's the part where you will see these arrogant liberals going, oh, you don't even understand that this was legal immigration. Yeah, because it completely changed the definition of what a refugee was.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, because like People used to say, well, I don't care, where you're coming from, as long as you do it legally. They stopped saying that during the Biden administration because Biden was like, okay, magic wand, they're here legally. And then they were like, oh, it was actually the people are the problem, not their immigration status. Like, that's the most ridiculous claim. It's like, okay, because you got some magical piece of paperwork from a courthouse, now all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, flipping through a pocketbook constitution.
And also,
No.
I think, the volume matters too. If we didn't have, 20, 30, 40 million people here that are illegal, then it wouldn't be such an issue. But like if you had like 100,000, 200,000 people that were here illegally nationwide, it'd be like, we can handle it. But 20, 30 million, you can't.
The volume is such a key point there. Jeremy Carl makes this point about he's talking about when he's interacted with Indian Americans, right? Like the children of Indian immigrants or potentially even first generation Indian immigrants themselves. And he says like their assimilation level, right, is completely dictated on where they grew up. So he says he'll meet these Indian Americans and they're like American as the next guy. Yeah. And typically they grew up in Idaho or they grew up in like, I don't know, maybe like South Carolina or something. He says the ones that are like Zoran types, those are the ones that grew up in Los Angeles or New York or Boston, not because those are liberal cities, but because they were in proximity to other Indians, they were allowed to form like enclaves, right? So like the volume is key because low volume means they're spread out, they're surrounded by Americans, steeped in that Americanness, and they kind of shake off whatever their home tendencies were.
Have y'all seen that video of the Norwegian guy who was raised in India?
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
He's talking like this. He says, I was a child, they left me here, and now, and it's, or I think he's Danish or something like that. Yeah.
Well, in the moment people make the racist claim too, and I'm like, look, I'll tell you what, I will set up the Nick Freitas immigration plan. Here's how it works. If you're Hassan Piker, we're going to kick you out of the country, and I will gladly trade you with someone that actually likes America.
Bro. Like all of the people in Cuba trying to flee communism will switch. The communists in our country for the people trying to escape communism.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They speak
we
Spanish,
get Poles,
but they hate communists.
we get Poles and Hungarians, and we'll give you all the Hassan Pikers.
Yeah. I
Trump
think that's more important than honestly. I mean, and this maybe this is because I'm Gen X, but I think that's far more important than race. Like if you love the country, and you believe in the United States, I would prefer you to some white guy that's like, okay, I'm a comic.
I got a question. Here's a question for you then, because I talked about this with Cenk Uygur a few years ago. He believes that the naturally born citizen requirement for president is unconstitutional because if there's a process towards naturalization, then you are supposed to be a full-fledged citizen. My argument is that it is not possible for a person born outside of the United States to ever be a full-fledged citizen. And there's only one thing you understand. Well, there's two things. The natural born requirement for presidency and the right of denaturalization that exists under the INA and with the Constitution. Meaning, if you're born here, ain't nobody ever kicking you out or taking away your citizenship. But if you're born anywhere else and come here and live here for 20 years and they find you committed fraud or there's justifiable reason, they can revoke that 20 years on and kick you out. But there's an interesting point to be made when we're talking about this issue. Who would you rather have? Hassan Piker, born in America, or Dinesh D'Souza?
Oh, Dinesh D'Souza.
He's not born here. He can't run for office.
Okay. No, he can run for office. He can't be president.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He can't.
We should
he can't be
fix
president.
that.
Hassan can.
What's that?
We should fix that.
Yeah, we should change.
And I'm not talking about making it so that way Dinesh D'Souza can run for president. I'm saying you shouldn't be allowed to hold any office in the United States. In the federal government at least, if you're not born.
Oh yeah.
But good for the president.
Again, the issue is Hassan was born here.
Yeah.
Dinesh was not. Hassan hates this country and celebrates Chairman Mao. And Dinesh D'Souza loves this country and celebrates America.
Well, so we have a small, I don't know if you guys know this, we have a small cemetery in England that is technically American sovereign territory. Now, they granted this territory to us for us to maintain. Likewise, we have a similar arrangement with them. There's a cemetery, I think, in South Carolina. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is we should consider offering the hospital room that Hassan Piker was born in to the Turks as a gift of saying, this is clearly someone that is of important, distinction.
Retroactively.
And retroactively, this has always been sovereign Turkish. So we'll do a land acknowledgement and everything. We deport him and then immediately annex it.
No. You are. I'm sorry, Tate. That is just too much. We should give it to Somalia.
That's an idea.
Somalia's already taken
because then Hassan should go to Minnesota and he'd get free money. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.